Welcome to a new episode of the Cartridge Club, where we discuss our game of the month with members of the Cartridge Club community. For the month of November, the CC is playing Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Joining me on the show, we have StumptownRetro, JChipShow, and AtomicBomb1980. If you've played along, you can always share your own experiences in our community's Discord or across social media by using the hashtag Cartridge Club. Before I start the show, on behalf of the entire Cartridge Club community, I'd like to give a huge shout out to our Patreon Club backers like Joe Boyce, Barrett on Mars, Christopher Rohr, Dean Lasagna, Ross Rango, and Caleb J. Ross. To our backers and Patreon supporters, thank you. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter for the Cartridge Club, please look at how you can do so at patreon.com/Cartridge Club.
This game has a lot of nostalgia for me. It was one of the first games I played on PS4 back when it launched. I actually got my copy of the game and my PS4 before launch from Sony, and so it was like a work thing at the time. So it was one of those experiences that I had very deep rooted. Like, this is something that is next generation. Not really, but it felt next generation because it didn't feel as clunky as Assassin's Creed 3 did. It felt a little more streamlined, especially with like the sailing and the traversal through the environment just seemed to have evolved a little bit from that. But coming back to it now, it was very hard to play. On the Discord, I had mentioned that like the fact that it was frame locked at 30, even though it's probably one of Ubisoft's more popular Assassin's Creed titles, not getting the frame rate boost when other ones had seemed a little bit strange. I tried to find any workaround for it, but ended up buying it on PC just to play it at 60 frames a second, which is capped. They don't have an uncapped ability to go to whatever frame rate your graphics card can support, which seems still strange, but okay, I can deal with this. The introduction to the game is slow. It is tedious. It doesn't give you a whole lot of love for your character nor any other ones because they're not really lovable. And I don't feel like the story ever really fixes that for Edward. He just continues to be kind of an ass. But the reason that I wanted to play this game again, the reason I wanted to be on here, and the reason that I've loved this game for so many years was the pirate combat. I didn't really care about anything else once I was able to get far enough in the story to unlock everything to upgrade my ship and my little pirate cove and everything like that, and just go ransacking people. And that's all I did. Once I had that, I didn't play the game anymore. I was just boarding ships, taking things over, grabbing supplies, and just being a general menace. And that's the part I find most fun about this game. And it is a very addictive gameplay loop. Some people might get tired of it. I definitely did not get tired of sinking ships when I got too bored of boarding them. I'd just blow them and sink them, whatever. I'll just board a different one. Just being a general unkillable menace was a lot of fun. And eventually you'll get bored, but it took hours for me to get anywhere close to scratching that boredom itch.
J-Chip, what are your overall thoughts on the game?
It's pretty good. I don't think the story is as strong as it could be. A lot of the characters just kind of come in and out. They're not really that interesting. But what I like the most is the gameplay. I'm a huge fan of the stealth combat. And the pirate ship battles are also really fun. Just going down, seeing if there's a ship with wood on it, I'll go over there and take it out. Once I upgraded the ram, that was really fun, just ramming into ships instead of just blowing them up with your cannons. I'll agree with StumptownRetro when he says that the beginning is very slow. And it is. But in my opinion, the way this game ends, like, it just kind of sort of happens. Like, besides killing that one dude, I don't really think anything else gets resolved. Like, it still feels like there's a lot more to do. Now, granted, I only did the story missions. I didn't really touch any of the side missions. But, I don't know. The game didn't really have a strong ending, in my opinion. But The journey though was still pretty fun. I enjoyed myself.
My overall thoughts was the first time I've played it, it wasn't really one of my favorite Assassin's Creed entries. I own every Assassin's Creed in the franchise, and it wasn't one of my favorites. I couldn't get attached to Edward at first. I couldn't. It started slow, and like again, like as Stump had said, he's just kind of an asshole the whole way through. So, and you just couldn't get into it for the longest time. That was back when the game came out, and I played through it. I start to have a lot more appreciation with it on a second playthrough because I knew what to expect, and I had a lot more fun just going out and just going out, sinking ships and just doing up and just exploring and just enjoying the beautiful game as that. I had to play it on the locked 30 frames, but overall, I think I like Assassin's Creed Black Flag a lot more now than I did my first playthrough.
For myself, I'm kind of mid on the game, and there's things I really like in the game, and then there's things I think I really didn't. And one thing I'll say I actually enjoyed that as a feature in the game is you can rate every mission that you do in the game. It gives you a little star choice. And I don't know if Ubisoft is still checking people's scores for the games. Probably not. But I made sure any mission that I was really frustrated with got 1 star. And I can only think of one mission in particular I think I gave like a 5-star to. And that probably was being the first time you rated a fort, right? That was a lot of fun. There's a lot of great elements in the game, and some ones I think are very dated. And right off the bat, and I mentioned this in the Discord too, that it looks very dated for a game that's 10 years old. It's as a PS4 game that looked like definitely something almost early PS3. And now some of this I think has to chalk up to it being on a lot of platforms. It was released on the Wii U. Which I can only imagine how well that looks. But for the PS4 one, I was expecting better. It just, in particular, I remember seeing off the bat, like the opening cutscene, it seemed like everyone had, like, raccoon eyes. And I don't know if that was just for authenticity, of all these guys having like an STD that carries over, they would lead into it, or liver failure. It looked pretty dated. Now, that being said, too, I want to say I think the gameplay even felt a little bit dated in the fact that I don't say I had a problem, but there was definitely times where I felt like I was trying to do something like an assassination from up top, and I would fall on the wrong guy and execute it. Or even in the battles, the sword fights, I felt like I was doing the counter, but it wasn't as smooth as I was expecting it to be. Where I felt like the sword fighting could have been better. I'm only saying this, and it's a different game entirely, but like just coming from playing like an Arkham game, right? Like the Batman games, I felt like when I was getting prompted for like counter, like it just didn't. It wasn't impressive. If you're asking me here, I will say I enjoyed all the pirate stuff way more than the assassin stuff. I found myself doing a lot more of that, exploring the seas, doing everything that you could possibly do. Leveling up was not the easiest for me, and I think maybe I was too far deep before I realized what I should have been doing with the pirate ships, like scoping them for materials to level up my ship a lot earlier. Because I think I leveled up my defense of my ship only once. And when I was trying to find out more materials for metals and wood, I couldn't. It was, I mean, I would find, but it would always be like 3 or 4 ships surrounding it. So the one ship I'm trying to attack to get the stuff, I was just going to get attacked by the others, and I didn't have high enough defense to withstand the battles. So I would always just be lost out. And eventually I just gave up and would just go to the next mission. The only thing I could ever really level up was probably the guns, the cannons on my ship. That was really the only thing I found was probably the easiest with gathering materials to do. But defense, I was always going to get destroyed. So much so, I think with the last mission, I tried every single way to get my ship past the 2 man of wars that are guarding that last location. and I almost sneak through one time, but the ship spotted me, which then blocks up the area from starting the yes, the start of the mission. So I eventually just parked my ship way far away and swam like for about 10 minutes before I actually got to far enough away where I could sneak past the ships just to start the final mission. I don't know. Like I said, there's times I had really good times. It's just there's times I felt like it was really dated, and I would say it kind of dampened my experience. I don't want to say I hated the game, but like I said, I was very mid on it just for the fact that some of the stuff was great, some of the stuff was good, and there's some stuff that isn't very good. But yeah, that's just my overall thoughts on the game.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean about that gameplay loop. You have to kind of like stick to the certain difficulty sectors to avoid the harder or more convoy level ships. So like if you're in like section or easy, which is like Tortuga and things like that, or Florida, like those ships are a lot easier to sink and they have less materials, but they're geared towards that leveling, so that way you can go into a different section if your ship is not all the way there. But if you don't see that and you're just kind of playing through the missions and you're just in an area, you'll never understand that gameplay loop, and it's not explained. You just kind of have to figure that out by just looking at the map and being like, oh, this area is easy. Maybe is it just easy because there's less things here, or is it easy because the missions are easier? No, it's easy because there's no mana wars in those sections. There's barely any frigates, so everything's easier to sink. So they don't really explain that, and they probably should have, but it's definitely a gameplay flaw.
And it sounds like I'm going to be like dogging it too, but I don't think anyone likes the swimming part, right? Like the fetching for gold underneath the sea. I don't think anyone really likes that. And not so much that it's like bad for swimming, but just I don't think it was very fun. And then you have to worry out for sharks, and then trying to be stealth in the water with the sharks. It's like you got your air. You're trying to, and I guess that leads to all of it too. But and there's like little pockets, right? You can get your air, but like when you have to come back up, there's always sharks gonna stop you and bite you on the way up. So
I don't think they really perfected, and even then it's still not perfect, but the swimming and going underwater until like Origins, Valhalla, and Odyssey. That's when they finally got the swimming correct. So how many games between Black Flag to then, they still never quite hit that whole swimming thing.
Luckily, that was only 2 games.
Well, Adam, what would you say? Because you're a big fan of the Assassin's Creed series. Which one did you say is probably the best of the best here? Because I've heard this one generally is like really well liked, and it also is a branching off of the Assassin's Creed side, so much so that it even led to another pirate themed one with Rogue, and now the bomb that is Skull and Bones that Ubisoft released.
Assassin's Creed Rogue was really good. The only problem that game had is it was just too short. That game should have been longer, and they should have built Shay up a lot more. I don't know what they could have done with him in the story, but Rogue was pretty good. I think my favorite Assassin's Creed, if I'm sticking to the original way of the games we're playing, I'm still kind of tied, just like everyone is, Ezio's trilogy. That is if I'm sticking to the old style. Now, if I'm just going in games in general, and this game could easily be stripped from the Assassin's Creed universe with a different name, different IP. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is one of my favorite games of all time, just as an open world JRPG. Or not JRPG, open world RPG. In a sense of, I absolutely love The Witcher 3, one of my other favorite games of all time. I love Horizon Zero Dawn, and Assassin's Creed Odyssey for me, especially the Greek mythology. Playing through as Cassandra is like the closest to a Wonder Woman game we'll probably ever get, because she essentially kind of is Wonder Woman in a way. That is one of my favorite games of all time. But sticking like to the Assassin's Creed closer to all the other games, I'm going to say Ezio's trilogy.
I've played a couple Assassin's Creed games here, more than a couple. But one thing I don't care for the Assassin's Creed franchise is the coming out of the world of being an assassin when you have to come back to the real life world and do missions in that part. I don't like that at all.
I don't either.
Keep me in Total Recall. Keep the helmet on me. I don't want to explore it. I prefer the story just be the assassin story. I don't need to see the real life, what Templars and assassins or whatever the goals are, that the war is still going on between these two people. I don't care. Just keep it to the assassin's world. I don't need to explore this other world here.
I was completely taken out of the experience when I had to go to the real life area.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, just let me go back and explore into the pirate world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been an issue for that franchise in general. Like, I remember playing the first Assassin's Creed right when it launched. It was the reason I even bought an Xbox 360 was to play that game, because it just looked so different and defining of that generation. And it was a lot of fun. And then all of a sudden I'm taken out of like the Middle East and I'm just like this guy in a freaking lab. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, or maybe they'll fix that by the second game. And the second game was super fun, so great. And then you got taken out and you're like in like some mobile version of the Animus. And I'm like, well, no, I don't like this. I still don't like this. And then 3, because naturally, you know, you're going to buy all the games because you're an idiot. You get to like Assassin's Creed 3 and you're like doing this all throughout like old American stuff. And I'm like, all right, sure. Why not? It was just boring. When Desmond died at the end of Assassin's Creed 3, I'm like, finally, we don't have to do this anymore. They finally learned we don't want this. And then they brought it back for this one. I'm like, no. Why?
And then with this one too, they do stuff from a first person perspective, right? I remember the other ones being like, I think climbing around, I want to say a warehouse almost, right? With like a third party when you're back in the real life.
Yeah,
world.
that was in Assassin's Creed 3 when he was like climbing on the outside of that skyscraper with the scaffolding.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
It could have been cool because everyone had the belief that maybe they're going to do another Assassin's Creed, still give us the past, but when we're going to have a modern day Assassin's Creed where we're playing as Desmond. Everyone believed that that's where they were leading towards. And then no, we just kill him. We're dead. We don't want to pay Nolan North anymore. Let's just get him out of here and move on.
Well, then they do this stuff from a first person's perspective in this game. And it's like, oh, you're going to hack stuff. But the hacking is just plain Frogger. So maybe one of you guys can explain the ending of this was just that we were making a movie of pirates. That was the just getting the memories of it. Because I just remember like it ends with just like, let's look at a trailer for what you just made. And it was just like highlights of seeing Blackbeard. And I didn't quite understand or care so much about the real life human story going on. I guess I was not quite paying attention where it's like, oh, you're going to meet the CEO of Total Recall. Okay, great. Now go back to your chair and go back to doing the stuff here because you're making a movie. And then was at the very end a descendant of Black Bart? Was that who it was or something like that who tried to poison me at the end?
Yeah, he was the IT guy.
Yeah.
In the building, he was like a descendant of Bart.
Mm-hmm.
But like the whole thing was kind of a mess. Like honestly, they're saying that you're making a movie, but you're actually doing research for the Templars because obviously it's Abstergo still. So it's all a front. It's kind of strange. And I'm like, I'm kind of done with this story.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that I haven't seen much of that in some of the more later releases like Odyssey, Origins, and Valhalla.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because like I'm new to this franchise. In fact, this is the first Assassin's Creed I've ever beaten. In the later games, do they go into the real world or is it just all in the past? Like how it should have been here.
I personally, if I were to like any of the modern day stuff, I would like the Origins, Valhalla, Odyssey timeline. I do like the character that you play as there. I do kind of like being able to see a little bit of what happened before. I don't want to spoil it. There's other things that go on too, but I don't want to spoil it since you have not played that trilogy, which is actually in the timeline. Those 3 games are before all of them. It actually takes place before Altair. It takes place before all of that. Oh, yeah. But the modern day timeline is actually it's not that bad. I don't dislike it as much as I did all the others. I still think they should be left out though. Like it's just we don't want that. It's like it would be like playing a Mario game and the next thing you know, like midway through like the next stage, oh, here we're gonna do some modern day stuff with Mario running around, and then
Well, didn't they do that with
go
Odyssey
back
for a
into
minute?
the level again or something, or it just kind of ruins the game. And that's
No,
also
no,
why
it would be more if you were like somebody at Nintendo R&D who just like gets up off their desk and it like zooms away from the screen. They're like, "All right, time for a coffee break." You know, it just doesn't make any sense.
no.
I've never understood it. I've never understood their fascination with linking the modern day unless they're going to make a modern day game, and they're never going to. That's not the point of the series. That's not what makes it sell. I doubt this next one is going to sell very well based off of all the negative feedback already going on with it. So we'll see what happens.
I think the other thing too with where it comes to some of these games in and out, and this is just an issue I think just with Ubisoft in general. They give you a lot of cool characters and they'll give you a lot of like characters that you love as your protagonist, antagonist. We love Ezio. I think Arno was kind of done dirty in his game. I think his game wasn't the greatest, but I thought he was an all right assassin. He was kind of similar to Ezio. But then you get protagonists that are just boring. Like Edward was an asshole, but he was kind of boring. Like you get just that's the same with like when we go into like Far Cry. Pagan Min was a fantastic villain, but he's barely throughout the game. He's barely a threat. Underutilized. Same thing happens with or Far Cry 5. It just feels like Ubisoft is hit or miss with their protagonists and antagonists.
You know what would probably be better for this one? Because I didn't hate Edward as a character in this game, but I kind of wish they had more of a good bad meter thing for him too, where the more bad stuff you do, like you're more of an evil pirate kind of thing, or if you're more of a, as opposed to just being like a 50-50 half good half bad kind of pirate kind of, that's what it seems like it comes off to me for him, where he's not quite good and he's not quite bad, but he's a pirate, right? And you're raiding random ships in the middle of the ocean, and I know Blackbeard's one of your best friends, right? In this world, and all these other, I would say, historical pirates are like Black Bart, and who's seen as like the greatest pirate of all time. But I kind of wish they would give you more of that, because he's not really an assassin, right? He was a pirate that killed an assassin and then just picked up the gear. Isn't that how it goes? And then the assassins eventually kind of just embraced him as being assassin.
Yeah, he goes through a progression, and then he really doesn't become an assassin until like near the end. I think Edward he's kind of boring and he's kind of an asshole. I think they should have built his character more. They should have done more with the fact that, you get to go back and see his wife that he's trying to take care of every so often, a little bit more often, build up a little bit more of a story with them. Just kind of being able to just build his universe. It feels like they just kind of like jumped from one thing to the next, and it just felt very short. That like Edward isn't like he could have been a really likable character, especially when you got to see his character like go from being like an asshole to someone who loses everything, to then realizing what he's lost and then growing from that. But we didn't really get to see that fully fleshed out. It was just sudden. Like you said, it just ends sudden. Like it's just over.
Well,
it makes sense that his son kills him in the beginning of Assassin's Creed 3.
Spoilers, but
yeah.
For spoilers for the game that came before this, but
True.
His son is the antagonist of the third game, and his grandson is the protagonist of the third game.
I liked 3. I didn't like Haytham all that much. I felt he was very much boring, kind of like Edward was. And I felt like getting through the beginning of 3, which we're not, talking about 3, but same thing, that whole, it's slow paced. I couldn't wait to just not be Haytham and just be Connor.
So let me ask you guys this. As a beginner of this franchise, is 4 the best one to get into? Or do you think there's another good entry point for the Assassin's Creed series?
Yeah, because JChip really liked what he played, right? You enjoyed this.
I enjoyed it.
I know I'm dogging on it, but I guess I'm giving out all my gripes right now out of the way because they stand out. Because there's a lot of good in the game.
Yeah.
But the one things that stand out to me are the sour spots. Those are the easiest to remember for me.
I do not think this is the best entry point into the series, specifically because of the slow start in the beginning. I think it really can damper people who are new to the franchise on like, okay, when does this start getting good? If I told somebody like that a TV show or a movie didn't start getting good until the 2 hour mark, you would tell me to go piss off, right? But because it's a video game and there's a lot more time in it, it's somewhat acceptable. But that's just really hard for a lot of people, especially when the character's not likable. I think that the best example for a good entry point into the series will be Assassin's Creed 2, and it'll probably always be Assassin's Creed 2, just because of
I agree.
Ezio's introduction is so likable and so charismatic right off the bat. And you get right into the assassin stuff immediately because his father was an assassin, and it doesn't really hold you back for a very long period of time. Within an hour, you're already in the suit, you're already doing stuff, you're already the assassin as Ezio, right? That's not the case in 3. That's not the case in 4. It's not really the case in any of the newer games either. Definitely not in Unity or Syndicate. So I would say 2 is still definitely the best entry point into the series. Because then once you already love the way that the game kind of works, then you can kind of forgive that stuff later on when you get into other games.
I completely agree. Ezio is a great place to start. He's kind of has that. He's charismatic, and I think the closest character I can compare him to, even though he's not quite exactly like him, is he has that like little bit of like Spider-Man to him. He like, he goes through some stuff and then he kind of grows from that, kind of like how Spider-Man did. And that's how I've always kind of looked at Ezio, is just kind of like a big lost tragedy. He's still charismatic, and I think it's a completely great entry point.
I don't have any experience with any of the franchises after this one, only the previous releases. But does it go back to more of a classic Assassin's Creed style kind of game where it's more open world and assassinate, or does it have like, oh, now we're in Egypt, so we are, this is gonna sound terrible, but now we ride camels or something like that, or does it take on different elements like that in the franchise going forward, or
Kind of a mix of both. So Unity and Syndicate kind of stay on the same path line of this classic style, where you can kind of upgrade certain things that you have. You kind of go through the missions. It's very much the same kind of like open zone is what I would call it, where you're going to different areas and then that zone is open world. That stays the same in Unity. That stays the same in Syndicate and Rogue as well.
Kind of like Arkham City. Like Arkham City. It's like zoned. Like you just kind of have that area to go around.
Yeah, but then when you get to Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, it is truly open world at that point. You can go anywhere. Whether you can survive everywhere is an entirely different story. But you can go everywhere pretty much right off the bat. Yeah, that's what I would say is it's a complete deviation, because then you have like gear to worry about like a classic RPG. Like it almost feels almost like Diablo-like in terms of the fact that any enemy you kill can have like a piece of gear, whether it's good or bad for you. It becomes a little more convoluted because of that, because it's Assassin's Creed, and then you're like trying to worry about gear that you never see equipped on your character. It's very strange, but it's one of those things that they decided to change completely about it. They recently went back to the classic style with Mirage, which I haven't played, but I've heard that some people appreciate that it's a shorter, more direct focus story. So that's good.
I have not played Mirage either. I think it's because, again, it falls back to the Ubisoft situation where you like their protagonists and antagonists are just kind of boring, and the assassin that they chose for that one really wasn't that interesting from Valhalla. So I'm just like, oh, he's getting his own game. I felt his companion in Valhalla was more interesting. Why didn't they just give it to him? Like, why did we get Bassam? I don't know. I'll still play it though. I mean, I love Assassin's Creed. I'll still play it.
I'll say one thing about the some of the gameplay that I always kind of like, I guess, about some of the classic ones, and it happens in this one as well. I guess I don't say a perfect, I don't know if there's probably a word for it, but a perfect execution of an assassination, where there'd be times where I'll be in a battle on a ship, or it could just be trying to assassinate the boss of the area, right? And you get in the battle, and then you're surrounded by these guys, and you're trying to sword fight or something or other. But I always like it sometimes when I just sprint for it, and I get the run up to him and give it the immediate hidden blade, and it's over. Now that doesn't happen every single time, like a perfect execution, but the just the ability. Sometimes I think maybe you're just so fast running up to it, and nobody really quick noticed you that you just pull off the assassination right away, and then they'll do a slight, if it's like a boss or something like that, an important figure that you just killed, they'll do the little cutscene between Edward and such talking, and you always give them the shame between the assassins and what's the other group? I'm sorry,
Templars.
The Templars are like you assassins and blah blah blah, whatever. I always enjoy like just pulling off the immediate assassination like that. I always think that's a lot of fun as opposed to having you'll see like a life bar full. Like I forgot there was one closer towards the end where the guy was wearing heavy armor. It was one where you thought you were gonna kill Torres, and it was like a decoy, and then there was some heavily armored guy, and I think I died 3 times trying to just like fight the guy. But the one time I think I just ran up to him and I just did the immediate hidden blade to him, and he was just instantly dead. I always enjoy that, and that was always kind of a part of some of the originals that I was able to pull off.
Man, I was just lazy. Whenever I had a target, I just found a guy with a musket, assassinated him, and just pointed it and shot the guy, and then it took me to the scene.
Yeah.
Like the slaver.
Too, yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to run up to the slaver. Why am I going to do that? I'm just going to shoot him from afar.
I always forget that I had a gun on me too. Sometimes it was in a battle and I would remember. I just run away and I'm trying to recover my health, and the guy who was, I just pull out the gun and shoot him. Very not professional or anything like that. Just the
just very pirate. Just being a pirate.
Yeah, just being a pirate. Yeah.
Gun and shooting them. I always enjoyed the darts, poison darts and berserk darts, and let them kill each other and just sit there and watch. And it was always kind of fun.
Yeah, for like for the gameplay or something like that. Like that was something new to the game. The addition of swords, blow darts, guns. Like I'm only familiar with just using the blades, the hidden blades, really from my past experiences. The playing it with different styles, and I guess that gives you a little bit more creative freedom to playing it. But JChip, how did you play this game?
For the most part, I was pretty stealthy. I would hide in the bush and get them to come over and just kill them. If there's ever a chance where I have to fight, I would try my best to run away to see if I can hide somewhere. But if not, then usually the combat is fine, I guess. The berserk darts are hilarious. It's fun. I love the sleep darts too.
So the berserk darts make people go crazy. Is that what they do?
Yeah, they go crazy and they start killing their allies. It's pretty funny.
I don't think I used one of them, so I kick myself for not exploring that. So
they're pretty useful when you use them on like the bigger enemies because you want those to go away first.
Mm-hmm. I think I just used
you always use them on the guys that were standing up in like the watchtowers or the guard towers. I just hit them with a berserk dart, and then they just start using their rifles and just shooting all their own men around them. And they never figure out, because the AI is so bad. They never figure out that they could just climb up the tower and just stab the guy and have it be over with. But they just run around in a circle and just all get shot. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Did you guys also do like all the hunting and everything like that as well to upgrade all your gear?
No, I'll be honest. I didn't. Yeah. I did not upgrade Edward at all in this game, and the only thing I upgraded really was the ship.
I did in my first playthrough, not so much in this one. I just kind of tried to get through it and just play it and just have fun. I remembered a lot of what was going on, but there's some stuff that I kind of forgot about too. But yeah, I didn't really spend a lot of time hunting.
For me, I think I did it like once, maybe twice or something like that. And it's only was like one of the ones I think where like it was like, hey, we're gonna force you to do it kind of thing, where you get stuck in a little island and they want you to hunt, I think, like a couple of pumas or something like that on there. Yeah, I only did it once. For the most part, I was trying to upgrade my ship. That and like stuff for my pirates. Like give them a little, like a bar. And they would ask for more stuff, and I'm like, no, you got a bar. You got that. You got the saloon. You got the area to get close. You're good. You don't have to worry about your campfires. You can do that on your own.
Yeah. No, you got to get the brothel, though. super helpful for later on.
I didn't do the brothel. I didn't know there was a brothel option. Now I'm gonna go back.
It's 15,000 rails, but once you have it, anytime you're in a town, you can hire them for free.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just makes it so you can just hire them and just send them after guards over and over and over again, and it makes gameplay kind of non-existent, which is hilarious that they keep breaking their own game.
I kind of wish the finding the hidden treasure with the treasure maps was a little bit better done too. I got a whole bunch of treasure maps, but they just give you like a brief drawing of the location, and I think I only like actively looked once. What's up?
Like Red Dead Redemption style. Here's a picture of a rock and a tree.
Yeah.
Your treasure chest is between the two.
And for the most part, I think I only found like maybe 2. I didn't feel like the effort I wanted to put in to find the treasure was worth it.
There are a couple that are worth it, like the elite plan for the swivel gun, I believe, is in one of the treasure maps. So that's super nice to have, because once you have that upgraded fully, you know how you can like swivel on like critical spots on a ship. It'll just fire automatically once it's highlighted. So you can just hold the button down, just boop, 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 and just keep hitting them, which is amazing. So it helps out a lot for the legendary ship battles.
Sure.
But that's another reason that I had to go and do all those upgrades as well, is because I was boarding people all the time. So I needed the health and the pistol upgrades. So naturally I had to go hunt sharks and whales and take care of crocodiles and all sorts of crap I didn't want to do.
Yeah. And that whale hunting is a lot like that Resident Evil 4 battle where you're in the swamp and you're shooting spears at the guy.
It's straight out of Resident Evil 4.
The great white one is so much fun because it just kind of comes up at you like Jaws, and you have to kind of just spear it right in the face. And then you just go back to doing the thing you were doing before. But then every once in a while it'll break off and it'll try to Jaws you again. And I'm like, all right, fine. Let's go.
Were the messages in a bottle just poems too, or like, readings? I don't think were there rewards for getting those? Does anyone know that?
From what I remember, there was a lot more to do with the messages in the bottle when the game launched, because I think it was also an online thing. There is one hunting thing that you cannot do. It just doesn't exist anymore, which is the white whale, like the Moby Dick whale. Mm-hmm. Like you'll see it sometimes when you're doing like the diving missions, you'll see the white whale in the background or something like that. But the hunting mission for the white whale was an online only hunt. And it is required for some things, so you cannot 100% complete this game anymore because there's just not an online server for it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to ask, were the servers killed for this? Because this is one of the ones I had always wanted to go back to Platinum, but I just never got around to it.
I didn't see that they were working on PC, as far as I'm aware. So that could just be like a PC thing. I don't know if it's still available on PlayStation, because obviously the game is on like Ubisoft Classics or whatever it is, so you can get it with your PlayStation Plus subscription, but I have no idea.
And I also wonder, when you hear that this game is locked at 30, that there's a Ubisoft is in the development of making a remake of this game. So I almost wonder that they probably won't purposely give away any free updates, just because why, when they can resell the game, right?
I didn't even hear that they were remaking this one.
Yep, I think they announced it last month, as a matter of fact. They announced that they're in development in the early stages.
It's just like an HD color paint, or do we know if it's an actual ground up rebuild, revoicing, more story?
It's listed as, in like GameSpot and IGN have it like listed on their pages, and it says Ubisoft is working on a remake of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. So when I hear remake, that means it's not a remaster, right? They're remaking the game. It's 10 years old too. Keep that in mind. It came out in 2014.
Yeah.
And maybe they see the warts.
No,
in
2013.
2013. Yes, that's right. So it's 11 years old at this point. So it's and maybe they realize, because it according to the Wikipedia for this game, it's sold 11 million copies. And it's on like literally everything. It even got ported to the Switch. Yeah. So it's one of their more successful. I don't know if it's the most successful, but it's one of the more successful ones. So if they're going, and Ubisoft, I think, had kind of a down year with some of their games. They know the Assassin's Creed games sell for them, so they're just going to keep pumping them out.
They have had a very down many years. So they were supposed to have that. Yeah, like I was just saying, we were supposed to have that Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake.
Mm-hmm.
That was supposed to come out like 3 years ago now.
Yeah,
and we haven't heard anything. except that they shut down the studio in India that was working on it. So who knows where that is? We still haven't got Beyond Good and Evil 2, even though we saw a trailer, like 6 years ago now. Skull and Bones took literally from the time that this game came out till this year to come out, and it sucks.
Yeah, it's
it's
$20 on the Black Friday sales right now. So,
and I wouldn't even pay $5.
All they did was take the ship battles from like Assassin's Creed Odyssey and like here's Skull and Bones.
Yeah,
it's really
it
all
was
they
supposed
did.
to be the original development team from this game. So, like, this game was headlined by the development team that worked on the ship combat in Assassin's Creed 3, right? So they were supposed to take that team, and they were in charge of development of Skull and Bones, but apparently stuff happened internally that changed that over time, probably from some of the lawsuits with Ubisoft and everything like that, and the sexual harassment probably changed leadership around. I have no doubts like that game could have been good, but it just got stuck in development hell with all the changes.
I mean, Ubisoft hasn't really put out a pretty good game recently. I mean, I've heard the new Prince of Persia, the Metroidvania, and I heard that was pretty good.
I heard good things about that.
Far Cry 6 was great, but that's a few years old now. But it's just like they're kind of like hit and miss lately.
I hear more news stories about them being for sale than actually having a good game. So
I feel like we've dogged this game pretty good, especially me. I feel bad for JChip because I think he really liked this game.
I still like the game. I still do.
Well,
it has its problems, but
it does. Like I wouldn't say like I
want to hear some positive things about this game because I feel like I feel like I brought this whole show down with my nagging like I classically do. And I don't hate this game like I hate other games like Skyward Sword, which I will really dog when we get to that game. Anyways, I want to hear some more positive things about this game because I did have fun with it. So instead of me dogging this game, I want to hear some of your more positive experiences that for people who like this game, you know, maybe they can be like, oh yeah, that was great. Can you guys give me some of those like recommendations?
I'll ask one question. Who is everyone's favorite character in the game? Like just favorite character. For me personally, I loved Adewale. And he gets his own expansion game, Freedom Cry, which I absolutely loved. Freedom Cry.
Yeah,
I thought that was really good. I don't know if anyone's played through Freedom Cry during this playthrough, but it's a fantastic.
After I beat Assassin's Creed 4, I immediately went to Freedom Cry and beat that, and I enjoyed it. It was a short and sweet little Assassin's Creed game. My playstyle on that one was very different. I just felt like he was a much bigger dude, so like. Why even just stealth? Just go up and kill people.
He's brutal with his machete.
Oh yeah, to the point where I wanted him to get a hockey mask so it can be like Jason. Yes, I thought that would have been cool.
He needed one, but he was my favorite character in the entire game. Like,
yeah, I guess for me, maybe it would probably be, maybe Blackbeard. Just that, like anytime, like. Yeah, just you don't play as him or something like that. I just thought when he got introduced, I'm like, oh, I guess we're gonna do some closer to real life pirate elements. And then I'm not very familiar on pirate lore. I've heard of Black Bart. I've never heard of I never heard of the story of Mary Reed's character. I've never have, and how that she went by James Kidd in the game.
He was a good character too.
But the funny thing about that is as soon as I heard the voice, I was like, is this person supposed to be playing like the Simpsons kind of do, where they would have, the voice actress who plays Bart, or you're having a woman play a younger boy character, right? And then they pull back the wool in one mission where I'm a woman, kind of thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That
like Mulan,
yeah,
like the whole Mulan thing.
She wasn't like hiding her voice well enough if I would complain. Where I think I don't know. It's up to the voice actress to pull it off, because it seems like when she became Mary Reed, it was the same voice as James Kidd. So like I said, I was like just the thought in the back of my head. I'm like, I wonder if this is someone just decoying themselves to be with the pirates. But you find out, I think that she was part of the Assassin's Creed, if you will. But
I liked Mary Reed a lot. Like that was probably one of my favorite characters in this game. I kind of really liked Benjamin Hornigold a lot, though. Like, he's the one who ends up turning into a Templar by the end of the story. But it just seemed like he was just so disappointed with how they couldn't create their own republic the way that he wanted them to. And so he just kind of like, well, we just need order, I guess. Like, we needed a little more order. We can't just have complete chaos. Plus, his voice actor is amazing. He also played, he's in Diablo 4 and 3. He does a really good job. So it's always fun hearing his voice, which is great.
JChip, did you have anybody that you liked in the game?
I mean, besides Adawell, I really liked Blackbeard. I thought he was a cool character. And Mary Reed was another interesting character that I enjoyed. But I felt like they kind of did away with those characters a little too soon. I felt like there could have been more character development, but it is what it is.
I knew like Black Bart was gonna screw me, right? You always knew in the back of your head, you're like, yeah, this guy's gonna. It felt very obvious for me with that one. Like I didn't hate it, but I kind of wish they explored a little bit more of that, because he's introduced to him right away at the beginning of the game, where is he trying to work a deal with the Templars too, or something like that, or I'm trying to remember exactly, because I just remember like there was the betrayal on the island where eventually you have to kill a bunch of Englishmen, I believe, and they get him out, and he becomes a pirate that you work alongside with, right?
Yeah, it was kind of convoluted. I never really understood his motivations even by the end of the game, and it doesn't really matter because he's dead. But it's I don't know, the whole story there at the end is just kind of a mess. But you said you wanted more positives. Did anybody do the legendary ships aside? Apparently, me.
No.
What are the legendary ships, if you can explain?
So in each corner of the map, you'll see on your map, there's like a red icon of the ship, and it's essentially a massive undertaking of a ship. It's like a Man of War times 2, except they each have their own special quirk that they specialize in. So one of them will have like a massive amount of mortar fire. They don't really have a whole lot of everything else, but their mortar fire is great, which means like if you try to sneak up on them from behind and shoot them, it's not going to work out in your favor because they're still going to mortar you to hell. So you just really have to be super aggressive taking them with your broadsides and everything like that. Not that they don't have broadsides that can also sink you, but it's difficult. The one closer to Florida, for instance, has a massive ram on the front, and their whole thing is to ram your ship into the depths. And it'll take at least, even at fully upgraded, it'll take a full health bar, if not more, off of your ship every time it hits you. So, and that was probably the one that I got sunk on the most. It was a very difficult one to get through. Each one of them, when you defeat them, it gives you like 10,000 reals or 20,000 reals. It's like a decent chunk of change. Plus, a bunch of materials and everything like that, and it unlocks like cosmetics. It's that nature.
What about the feature in the game where it's like you send other ships to like areas of the map? You know what I'm talking about? Like if you would go in your deck on your ship, like there's an area like where you can send, and it tells you like the higher chance of success to be like, hey, it's a 90% chance the ships that you're sending this area are gonna succeed. Did anyone do any of that stuff, like to gather stuff? Like, and what's the point of that really? Is it just to gather more materials without doing
mine
stuff?
Said every time I tried to do that, it had to connect to the Ubisoft server, and then it never did.
Oh,
because it's an online feature apparently. It kind of reminds you, like, did you play Mass Effect 3?
Yep.
Okay, so you remember how you have your fleet and you can send them out to go get resources or whatever to help you build your final fleet for the final attack?
Yep.
It feels like that. Whether that's actually good gameplay or a good use of your time, I can't tell you. It didn't work for me. But back then, I might have done it. Like every time I took down a Man of War, I'm like, why wouldn't I use this ship? It has the most storage and cannons. Yeah, why not? But
I want to say like I did it twice, and like I just forget about it. There was like no real like draw for me to want to go and do it. It's just one of those things I stumbled over, like, oh yeah, that's here, and I did it. I'm like, well, I'm only gonna do the ways that are highly successful because I didn't want to lose anything. I guess that was maybe important to me, but I don't know. It's just there's a lot to do in this game, and I don't want to say it's a long game, but it kind of is. If you want to, especially if you want to really dabble and explore in this game.
Yeah, this game is as long as you want it to be, and that's kind of a fun thing because it lets you decide like what kind of path you want to take. If you want to spend 40 hours like you did in the game, you can. If you want to spend less than 10 like I did, you can also do that. There's a lot of freedom of choice on how you play this. But I feel like the Kenway Fleet thing is just it's an older gameplay design thing to integrate online services into things that seems to be stemming from like Mass Effect 3 had it, and then Dragon Age Inquisition had it as well, where you had like your missions you would set people on that would like passively get you like resources and gold, you know? It just seems like an old gameplay loop that we just don't see anymore. And I'm glad we don't, because it doesn't really add anything.
Did anyone have any more positives?
Blowing up ships is fun.
How did you go about attacking JChip? How did you go when you were going to get in a fight? Did you have a strategy?
For like the ships or just regular people?
Oh, just like with the battles or something like that on ships.
Oh, I would upgrade my ram, so I ram into them, and then I'd blow them up with the cannons, and then get on board and kill their people and take their stuff.
I would say like I prefer almost just fighting the forts more than I did actually the ships.
Yeah.
Even though I kind of had the same exact pattern where I would always just try to target one area first, just keep chopping away at all of them. If I could take out one in a swift, that'd be the best way of doing it. Or if I could do the front, I would always, I guess, try to go straight on it front as fast as I could until I got as close as possible. Then do the front, the ball and chain attack, if you will, before switching to the sides and attacking from the side cannons, and then doing the swivel shots. That was always kind of my go way about doing it. I never got, I don't know if what's the name of the ship, the Jackdaw, or I don't know if the Jackdaw got any like back cannons. Like there was a mission where you're helping Black Bart get like a man of war, right? Where that's got like back cannons. No, I didn't know if I can get that part of an upgrade, but for the time I put into it, I didn't get my ship to be as fully upgradable as I'd like to. And I think that would have been, I think if there's a faster way of, maybe I just didn't play it correctly, a faster way of upgrading Edward and my ship, I would enjoy the game a lot more. Feel like it didn't maybe present that way to me. Like when I like to play a game, I like to be as strong as possible, because then I could just walk through everything, and some people don't like that. But I felt like I didn't upgrade the game fast. I didn't get to be as upgraded as I wanted to in this game while playing it, and that kind of hampered my experience.
Yeah, no, that's why the first things I did was I went hunting to get all of my personal upgrades up. That way boarding ships was a lot easier, because I'd have 4 pistols instead of 1, and then I would have all the health in the world, so when the game doesn't counter when I tell it to, I'm not dead. You know, it just helped out a lot, especially when you're taking on man of wars, because you have to kill a lot more guys when you get there, and your swivel gun that you can use to like take out guys really quickly kind of sits below the deck of their ship because it's taller than yours, so it's not really helpful. So you have to do a lot more work on them. But yeah, getting the upgrades to my ship was definitely the priority for me, because I knew that my main gameplay thing I wanted to do was just take care of all the legendary ships. I had a very different approach, especially later in the game. But earlier on, what I would do is I would just kind of sail alongside a ship, and then I would use my heavy shot, and the one where you don't zoom in on it, and just it would take out maybe half the health of a frigate right away. And then I would be able to finish it off in like 2 more shots, and I was done. Whereas when you get into the harder areas, because it's the Spanish and British are kind of fighting each other, you'll see man of wars like attacking each other, and you'll see, all right, there's a lot of British guys and 1 Spanish guy. I'm going to go take out that Spanish guy, because then the other ones won't attack me. And then once I get my wanted level down again, then I'll go and screw with those guys and take them down, and then get the pirate hunters after me, and then just start a whole cycle of just keep going. And that's how I ended up with way too many resources, where I was like selling wood and cloth at one point.
So I should have been selling my sugars and rums that I was buying, or I was constantly capturing, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you just go into town, you just sell them at the Harbor Master.
Gotcha. I should have done that. I just kept ordering in case I needed rum for my guys, I guess, but I never used it. You know, one thing that I think we're forgetting to cover in this game is the music, and the game music I think really more stands out with the pirate shanties. Did anyone have a favorite shanty? Before we cover this here's another small gripe, because I actually loved going after little shanty lyrics when I knew there was a shanty available to unlock in my area. I would try to always go and get them off of every island I was on. Sometimes the platforming would get in the way and I would swing another way. Well, it'd be like I would need to be running on a roof and I would jump on a tree and the tree would swing me another way and I would have to climb back up the house, but then the shanty would be out of the area. So that's a little bit of a rant. And the other rant I would say is I feel like even though I accumulated a lot of shanties, I kept hearing the same shanties over as like a starter. And there's a skip feature for that, but I felt like I kept hearing a lot of the same shanties over. So that's my little gripe, but I actually really did like some of the shanties that were in there. Before I give mine, did anyone have a favorite shanty that they liked in the game?
No, I like them all. They're all awesome. It's like an ambiance thing, because going in the town, you just get like those weird little Assassin's Creed background music, which has never been awesome. Their soundtracks have always been kind of there. This actually gave some personality to the game and made sailing for longer periods of time fun, because you got to like enjoy being around your guys, and then like, oh, gotta interrupt your shanty. There's a wave coming. I gotta like not have the ship go straight into the wave. Let's go.
Didn't really have a favorite shanty. I kind of just stuck with the one that was given to you, I guess. For these kind of games, I'm usually just having a podcast or a stream by me. I'm just listening to that while I sail. So
Gotcha.
The music, I would say, in this game is pretty good. I would say the voice acting is really good in this game, if we're going to just go off the sound. But yeah.
I didn't have a favorite shanty either. I just kind of listened to whichever ones I had and just played as I was going from one to the other. But one of the things I'm going to bring up is, it's just me, or does the voice actor for Edward Kenway sound a lot like Chris Hemsworth?
Yeah.
I think that might be just you, man.
Because this guy's British, so maybe you're just
no. But I'm just saying he sort of sounds like him. But I mean, Chris Hemsworth.
I think you're fooled by the blonde hair too. You know, it's.
But I'm just saying he kind of sort of had a little
Welsh.
bit like that.
Yeah. I'm disappointed you guys didn't really have a favorite shanty. I was going to force you guys to sing it. But for me, you know, one I think I liked when I would pop on would be like Lever Johnny. That was always one I always liked and wouldn't skip. And actually, I got tagged on Twitter by Outlaw Torn 29. He said, "What we do with the drunken sailor was his jam for the game." But yeah, that one always stands out there too. There's a few that I do like, and I'm not gonna sing it, but when they would come on, I just didn't know the name of the song. I guess I didn't pause it up to look to see what it was. But like, there were a few songs that I'd be humming around, and honestly, it would make me forget to fast travel to another location, because I'd be just doing the travel speed, and I'd just be hearing the song, and I guess I'd just be like on maybe getting a sip of water or something like that while I'll be shipping on the open sea as I was getting to the area. It definitely make me forget I was sailing with when I was doing it, which I think helps, because you should be exploring the sea, I guess, to find all the additional treasures as opposed to just fast traveling everywhere.
I think the biggest thing is I you know, even though I hope that the remake will build upon it, is I did like to see Edward's character kind of grow from everything that he's been through. I just would like them to explore that more in a remake, if that's what they're going to do. So that's a positive. Like that, I think I can see why a lot of people love Black Flag. It's the gameplay. It's just the feel of being a pirate. It's the first time we really got to be a pirate, and like in the Assassin's Creed franchise, they started to give us a little bit of sailing with Connor in part 3, but I think they've improved the sailing in Black Flag versus 3, and then it only got better as the games went on. So I thought it was a very good experience. I mean, especially back then, I mean, here's Black Flag, and it's the new entry, and it was. I think it's a solid game. With its flaws, it's still a fun game. We still enjoy it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would say I think there's got a lot of elements for why it would appeal to a mass audience too, because it gives you a lot of things. And I honestly really like doing the pirate stuff. Where I know there are a few pirate games out there, but I think everything that I've seen that is a pirate game, I don't want to play. But the pirate elements of this game I found were a lot of fun, and I kept doing that more than I probably needed to, or I probably should have done more of the assassin stuff on land side missions as opposed to. But I just, if you're gonna play the game how you like, I just found myself doing a lot more piratey stuff.
You mean you don't want to go play the Risen trilogy?
What's that?
They're pirate games.
Oh, the pirate
games.
It's like Risen, Port Royale. There's a couple of them that are pirate centric, and they're not awesome. They exist. They sell enough to make another one, I guess, but that's about it. I don't know. If you really like this game, like if you wanted to, or if you really like the ship combat, like I feel like that's the biggest positive for most of us, was that the combat actually felt good, and it felt good enough to be like if you just made a modern game with just like slight tweaks to it, it would still feel good. If you like that, check out the Sid Meier's Pirates game from the early 2000s. It was like their remake of their original like DOS game that takes a lot of those same elements, or I feel like this game takes a lot of elements from that one in terms of you're sailing the whole Caribbean. You have chain shots and long range fire and short range fire and everything like that. And you can board ships and you have to like fight the captain and everything. It feels like that has a very similar vibe to this one in terms of like the combat scenario. And if you're really into that, you can do that. Plus you can actually build the fleet that you see in that game. So yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
So I guess, we're at that point. What would you say? Is there any other pirate or games that you would recommend? Because we usually do game recommendations where if you like this game, you might want to check out such and such. Adam, I know you are a fan of the Assassin's Creed franchise. Would you give us some recommendations you recommend people go if they like the assassin side of the games? Or
I would say if they really want to see Assassin's Creed ship battles at its finest, Odyssey. But I understand that because of Odyssey being such a huge game, it is a grind to level up your ship and get to where you are. Like it's like way more intense to upgrade your ship in that game versus Black Flag. But the ship battle in Odyssey is top notch. It's very, very good. That's kind of what they copied into Skull and Bones, except Skull and Bones kind of, again, as Stump said, it kind of sucks because it doesn't seem like it really has much of a story, and it's just stripped down. It's just like all they gave you was just that part of the game.
is that more of a online only game, or is it an actual pirate game for itself?
I think Skull and Bones.
From what I understand, it's online. It's very online focused. Like you can't fight any of the legendary beasts, which was in Skull and Bones here. Like they had shown that in the trailer. You could fight the Kraken or whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. That's an online event. You have to be online. You have to be in an event to do it. So they kind of like took all the reasons that you'd even want to buy that game and stripped it to an online only access. So it could be like more like a For Honor or some of their other bigger Ubisoft online titles.
So is it like a Sea of Thieves, if you will, or is it more? Does it actually have a single player game to it too? Right.
It kind of has a single player game, but it's not really worth playing. It's more like this game in terms of you get to control your actual ship. Mm-hmm. Whereas Sea of Thieves, it's you and a bunch of friends control your actual ship. Mm-hmm. You can't really sail on your own in Sea of Thieves. It doesn't work out that way. Whereas in this game, you can. Which is one of the reasons I was always looking forward to it, because when Sea of Thieves was announced, the same year as Anthem, take you back to that, like it was Anthem, Sea of Thieves, and Skull and Bones were all supposed to come out the same year, and I had said at the time on Twitter, I was like, Sea of Thieves is gonna bomb, Anthem's gonna bomb, and Skull and Bones will probably be the only good one because it's based off of a game that people already love, and then it never came out until people forgot about the game, and including the company.
JChip, do you have any recommendations for if you like this game you would recommend? I know you're new to the Assassin's Creed side, but anything that stood out to you that if you really liked, I would say, hey, maybe dabble in this game?
For like the combat, probably the Batman games, honestly. They're very similar. You're doing a lot of stealth in that game. For the pirate theme, I mean, there's a lot of sailing in this game, so you might like Wind Waker because there's a lot of sailing in that one too.
You took my recommendation. You know what? It does it better. It does it better in Wind Waker than it does here. And that game come out way before this here. So yeah. I'm glad you recommended it because I wasn't the only person just thinking that. So
I was thinking it. No, I was thinking it, but I didn't say it because I was going to say Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I said Assassin's Creed Odyssey instead. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking it, but it does it even better in the Wind Waker HD version. There you go.
Which also came out the same year as this game. The HD version came out the same year as this game did.
And the art style looks so much better too than this game too. So it's we all love Wind Waker here. It's a great game.
But my suggestions would still be Sid Meier Pirates. If you want to play a pirate game, it's available on Steam. It's available on pretty much everything else. I don't think it's on Switch, but you can get it on the Wii if you're wanting to do that. But if you want like the gameplay, like the on-land gameplay, given their next game is supposed to take place in Japan, just get Ghost of Tsushima.
There you go. And it's the same kind of thing. It's an open world game. Yeah.
Open world, you got things to conquer, you got enemies to target, you can be stealthy or not. It's got options for you.
Mm-hmm. And they're coming out with a sequel, Ghost of Yota.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot wait.
Yeah, I would say, I wouldn't recommend the very first Assassin's Creed game if I'm going to do anything. I was highly disappointed with that game when it came out. And I would say elements of this game kind of reminded me a little bit, just for the human side of it. The unrealistic hacking side reminded me of Watch Dogs a little bit, which is another Ubisoft game, which was also, I would say, kind of a disappointment as well. But that was also a entry point in the game too, where you start stuff and then you improve upon it. Not the most promising ones. Play Wind Waker, play Ghosts. Yeah, those are great recommendations if I was going to say anything.
Who here actually played Assassin's Creed 3? Besides me and Adam, probably.
I've only played the first game in the Ezio trilogy.
Okay.
Black Flag and Freedom Cry are the only Assassin's Creed game I've ever played.
So I would say, because 3 came out, it was a PS3 game, and it came out, obviously, before this one. Mm-hmm. When I went back to 3 after playing this game, I actually had a lot more appreciation for 3. So I would say if you wanted to play another game in the series, but have, the same families, storyline, try Assassin's Creed 3 next.
I think it got a remaster as well.
It did get a remaster. It does work at a better frame rate. So that's really nice. It's a little smoother. They worked out some of the kinks. There were some major issues in that game that they, obviously they didn't go back to the one here in Black Flag. Did anybody use my little thing I told them about in the Discord chat about how you can get infinite money really quickly in the game?
No, I forgot about it. Sorry. Yeah.
So in the beginning intro, when you're first at the Templars table, when they're telling you about their plan to find the observatory or whatever it is, and it tells you to pickpocket all 3 of them, you can pickpocket them, pause, restart the sequence from that checkpoint, and then it keeps the money you just stole, and then it tells you to steal it again. So you could just do it over and over and over again. And it's
that's pretty cool.
So you can start off really loaded in the beginning of this game.
That's a good little trick. I would recommend if you're going to then play through 3, I would also say, after you finish 3, jump to Rogue. Rogue's a little underappreciated, I think, probably because it's a little shorter, but a lot of people that I've talked to actually like it a lot. Just wished it was longer like I did.
I think Rogue just got ignored because it came out the same day as Assassin's Creed Unity, because it was their last gen release, whereas Unity was their current gen release. So people just kind of forget that it exists, but it also got a remaster. So
yes, it finally got brought over.
It's worth checking out.
Yes,
on Xbox or PlayStation.
Agreed.
All right, final thoughts. Where's everyone's final thoughts on Assassin's Creed Black Flag? Adam, how about I start with you?
All right. My final thoughts is I enjoyed the experience my second time around. I kind of rushed through it my first time. I didn't, like I said, I didn't get attached to Edward the first time. Because he kind of was like a jerk through most of it. But when I start to break it apart again and start paying attention to the things that I've missed, I really liked his character development, which I wish it would have expanded more. I liked the people around him. I felt bad for this, like the people he like lost, and I just, yeah, I overall I enjoyed it my second time through.
JChip, what are your final thoughts on Black Flag?
I think the game's solid enough. The combat is decent in my opinion. I love the pirate aspect of it. The story really isn't great, but if you did like the gameplay of this, I do think you should check out Freedom Cry, because I think story-wise and character-wise, that just does a little bit better, and it's way shorter. So, yeah. Overall, I would say Black Flag is a pretty good game.
Gotcha. And Stump, what are your final thoughts on Assassin's Creed Black Flag?
I think this is a game you can have a lot of fun with depending on the type of gamer or person that you are. If you really, really enjoy just like that infinite gameplay loop of like serotonin, where you're just constantly winning and winning and winning and winning, then yeah, play this game, be a pirate, forget everything else in this game, because it's mostly inconsequential. Just enjoy being a pirate. And this game does that part of its gameplay so well, and no other game has really come close to that kind of pirate experience since then. Like, it's been 11 years, and nobody else has cracked the code in a way that's been as fun. Like, I went back to this game, and I didn't feel like the ship combat was dated in any way. Like, it was really fun. I could think of ways that it could be better, like we could add more stuff to it, but that's just like me thinking like, oh, what if I had like fire barrels that I could like launch at another ship or something like that? That would be fun. Or what if I could just like use chain shot that destroy their masts so that they can't move and then they're just a sitting duck, which is something that's in the Sid Meier Pirates game, right? You could just chain shot a ship until they can't move and then they're done. There's things like that I'm like, oh, that could be so great. And I was hoping that we would ever, one day get the sequel to do that. But so far, this game still remains that perennial pirate experience. If this is what you're looking for, kind of ignore the Assassin's Creed thing. I know it's a big franchise that's kind of gotten bloated over the years and things like that, but ignore that and just enjoy the fact that you get to be a pirate who is morally questionable, like they should be.
I would say there's elements of this game that, for my final thoughts, I would say there's elements of this game that hold up and some that don't. For the most part, sometimes it looks beautiful and sometimes looks really dated. And I think a lot of my gripes too probably can be fixed with a remaster. So if I was gonna say one thing, maybe if they're in development and you're in no particular rush to play this, maybe you wait till the remaster comes out. Hopefully, it's a well done remaster. But for the most part, I really enjoyed the game, and I even was talking to a couple friends a week or so ago that I was playing this game, and I just kept doing the pirate stuff and really enjoyed that. And one thing I kept on saying to him was like, I really wish I didn't even have to do the assassin stuff to this, where I wish I could have just explored more of being a pirate than being an assassin, because I found that to be way more interesting from my point of view on how I wanted to play the game. But like I said, I want to repeat, I know I've dogged this game a lot today. I still find it enjoyable and definitely worthy of playthrough for anybody who wants to play an Assassin's Creed game. For the month of December, the Cartridge Club is playing Star Fox Adventures. For those of you who want to get a head start on January's game of the month, we'll be playing Shining Force. In February, FPS stands for February Pick a Shooter, where the CC Patreon votes on which FPS game we'll be playing, and this season, the Cartridge Club Patreon selected BioShock Infinite. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, please reach out to us. We're always looking forward to having new community members on to talk about the games they love. To those of you interested in supporting the club beyond a review on the podcast app of your choice, I'd like to mention that the club is entirely funded by pledges made from members of our community. We are extremely grateful to those supporters, and if you're interested in becoming one of them, please look at how you can do so at patreon.com/Cartridge Club. With that being said, that's the show, everyone. I want to thank my guests for being here. So to start it off, let's go with Stump. Where can we find you online if people want to hear more from you?
Nowhere really. I finally deleted my Twitter, so that's gone. So I'm kind of like on the Discord here for Cartridge Club. Maybe you'll find me on Reddit every once in a while, complaining about something. That's about
There you
it.
go. That's what Reddit's for. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Thank you for being here. JChip, where can we find you online?
You can find me on YouTube at JChipShow. I review anime and video games and all that stuff. I'm also on Twitter. I'm in the Discord. And now I'm on Blue Skies.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Adam, where can we find you online?
You can find me as AtomicBomb1980 on most platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. And I'll have a Discord link on my Twitch. If you wanted to jump into my Discord, you can just go to my Twitch page, click on the link, and it should just take you right to Discord.
Thanks for being here. As for myself, you can find me on Instagram with the handle What's Rocket Sauce. I'm still on Twitter, but I've been more active on Blue Sky as of recently. And you can always find me on the Cartridge Club's Discord, where we're always discussing the game of the month with all the other members of the Cartridge Club. But that's the show, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. CC Unite.
But since it falls unto my lot that I should rise and you should, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be with you all. Good night and joy.